The chipped paint on the windowsill of Michael's room at Hopeful Horizons Orphanage did little to brighten the drab, gray day seeping in through the rain-streaked glass. At 5 years old, Michael didn't understand the complexities of abandoned dreams or societal failings that landed him here. All he understood was the gnawing loneliness, the echoing silence in the crowded dining hall, and the constant yearning for something he couldn't quite name. Hopeful Horizons, despite its optimistic moniker, was a place of routine and rules. Meals were served at rigid times, play was structured, and bedtime was early. Individual attention was a luxury, a fleeting moment stolen from the overworked caregivers' busy schedules. Michael, with his perpetually smudged face, eyes too big for his small frame, an unruly mop of brown hair, often felt invisible amidst the sea of other orphan children. He wasn't unhappy, not exactly. He had friends, Sarah, who braided his hair with colorful yarn scraps she scavenged, and Thomas, who shared his precious stash of candy wrappers. But even their companionship couldn't fill the gaping hole in his heart. He craved a connection, a sense of belonging that extended beyond shared mealtimes and hurried games of tag. Michael's escape was his imagination. He spent hours drawing, filling scraps of paper with fantastical worlds and, more often than not, families. He drew mothers with gentle smiles and fathers with strong arms, children laughing and playing in sun-drenched gardens. These drawings were his secret refuge, a tangible manifestation of the life he longed for. One afternoon, huddled in the corner of the library with a box of well-worn crayons, Michael was meticulously adding details to his latest masterpiece, a vibrant house with a swing set in the backyard and a happy family waving from a porch. He overheard Mrs. Peterson, the orphanage director, talking to another caregiver. "They're coming tomorrow," Mrs. Peterson said, her voice hushed with a rare hint of excitement. A couple, looking to adopt. Michael's heart leaped. He didn't dare to hope. Not really. He'd heard those words before, whispered by other children, followed by crushing disappointment when the couple chose another child, or worse, changed their minds altogether. But still, a tiny spark of hope flickered within him, a fragile ember refusing to be extinguished. That night, sleep eluded him. He tossed and turned in his narrow bed, replaying Mrs. Peterson's words in his mind. He imagined what the couple would be like, what they would say, and what they would think of him. Would they like his drawings? Would they think he was a good boy? Would they choose him? The next morning dawned gray and overcast, mirroring the swirling uncertainty in Michael's stomach. He picked at his breakfast, barely able to swallow the bland oatmeal. He watched as other children, carefully groomed and dressed in their best clothes, were ushered into Mrs. Peterson's office. Hours crawled by. Michael retreated to his corner in the library, clutching his drawing of the family. He tried to focus on adding more details, but his hand trembled and his mind raced. He was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't notice the two adults standing hesitantly in the doorway until Mrs. Peterson cleared her throat. "Michael," Mrs. Peterson said, her voice unusually gentle. "This is David and Andrea. They would like to meet you." Michael looked up, his heart pounding in his chest. He saw a man with kind eyes and a gentle smile, and a woman with warm, welcoming arms. He didn't know it yet, but his world was about to change forever. David, a man with a gentle smile etched around his kind eyes and a scattering of gray amidst his otherwise dark hair, crouched down, bringing himself to Michael's level. He extended a hand, his touch light and tentative. "Hello, Michael. It's nice to meet you." Andrea, her face radiating warmth, offered a soft smile. Her eyes, the color of warm honey, held a depth of compassion that instantly put Michael at ease. "We've heard so much about you, Michael," she said, her voice soothing and melodic. "Mrs. Peterson tells us you're a very talented artist." Michael, suddenly shy, clutched his drawing tighter. He mumbled a barely audible hello. "May we see your drawing?" David asked, his voice encouraging. Hesitantly, Michael unfolded the crumpled paper and presented it to them. David and Andrea studied it intently, their faces mirroring genuine appreciation. "This is wonderful, Michael," Andrea exclaimed. "You have a real gift." "I love the swing set," David added, pointing to the meticulously drawn swings hanging from a sprawling oak tree. "I used to spend hours on the swings when I was a boy." That simple comment, a shared experience, seemed to break the ice. Michael's shoulders relaxed slightly. He started to explain the drawing, pointing out the details, the colorful flowers in the garden, the dog wagging its tail on the porch, the smiling faces in the windows. Over the next few weeks, David and Andrea became a regular fixture in Michael's life. They visited him several times a week, bringing with them books, games, and, most importantly, their undivided attention. They read stories aloud, built elaborate Lego castles, and took him for walks in the nearby park. Michael, slowly but surely, began to open up. He shared his fears, his dreams, and his secret thoughts. He told them about the other children at Hopeful Horizons, about the strict rules and the lonely nights. He even showed them his most treasured drawings, the ones he kept hidden under his mattress. David and Andrea listened patiently, offering words of comfort and encouragement. They never judged, never dismissed his feelings. They simply listened, offering him the unconditional love and acceptance he had always craved. One sunny afternoon, while building a particularly ambitious sandcastle on the beach, Michael asked a question that had been weighing heavily on his mind. Are you going to choose me?" David and Andrea exchanged a meaningful glance. David cupped Michael's face in his hands, his eyes filled with sincerity. "Michael," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "we've already chosen you. We want you to be part of our family." Tears welled up in Michael's eyes. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt so happy, so loved. He threw his arms around David, burying his face in his chest. "Really?" he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "Really, really?" Andrea knelt down and wrapped her arms around both of them. "Really, really," she confirmed, her voice trembling with emotion. "We're going to be your parents, Michael. We promise." But even amidst the joy, a sliver of fear lingered. Michael knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The adoption process was long and complicated, filled with paperwork, interviews, and uncertainties. He had heard stories of adoptions falling through at the last minute, of children being returned to the orphanage after months of living with a new family. He voiced his fears to David and Andrea, his voice small and hesitant. What if they don't let you have me?" David squeezed his hand reassuringly. "We're going to do everything we can, Michael," he said. "We're going to fight for you. We're not going to give up," Andrea added. "And even if things get tough, remember that we love you. Nothing can change that." The adoption process began. David and Andrea filled out countless forms, attended numerous interviews, and underwent a thorough home study. They answered personal questions about their finances, their health, and their relationship. They opened their lives to scrutiny, all for the sake of bringing Michael into their family. As the weeks turned into months, the stress began to take its toll. David worked long hours at his architecture firm, and Andrea spent her days teaching a class full of energetic second graders. They were exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Doubts crept in. David wondered if he was truly ready to be a father, if he had the patience and the wisdom to guide Michael through life. Andrea worried about Michael's past, about the emotional scars he carried, and whether they could provide him with the healing and support he needed. They shared their fears with each other, their voices hushed and filled with uncertainty. "What if we fail him, David?" Andrea asked one night, tears streaming down her face. "What if we can't give him what he needs?" David held her close, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We won't fail him, Andrea," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We love him, and that's all that matters. We'll figure it out together." They knew they had to keep fighting, not just for Michael, but for themselves, for the family they dreamed of building. They leaned on each other for support, drawing strength from their shared love and their unwavering commitment to Michael. Meanwhile, back at Hopeful Horizons, Michael was also facing his own challenges. He missed David and Andrea terribly when they weren't around. He worried about the upcoming court hearing, about the judge's decision, and about whether his dream of finally having a family would come true. He confided in his teacher, Miss Emily, a young woman with a kind heart and a gentle demeanor. Miss Emily listened patiently to Michael's fears, offering him words of comfort and encouragement. She reminded him of David and Andrea's love for him, of their unwavering commitment to making him part of their family. She also encouraged him to talk to his friends, to share his worries and his hopes. Michael, hesitant at first, eventually opened up to Sarah and Thomas. To his surprise, they were incredibly supportive. Sarah offered to braid his hair with extra colorful yarn, a symbol of hope and good luck. Thomas shared his entire stash of candy wrappers, a gesture of solidarity and friendship. Miss Emily also had an idea. She knew how much Michael loved his classmates, how much he valued their friendship. She suggested that he invite them to the court hearing to show their support and to let the judge know how much he was loved. Michael's eyes widened. "Really?" he asked, his voice filled with excitement. "You think they would come?" "I know they would," Miss Emily said, smiling warmly. "They care about you, Michael. They want you to be happy." And so, Michael, with Miss Emily's help, extended an invitation to his entire kindergarten class to attend his court hearing. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that he wasn't alone. He had David and Andrea, Miss Emily, Sarah, Thomas, and a whole class full of friends who believed in him. And that, he realized, was a powerful thing indeed. The day of the hearing was fast approaching, and the air was thick with anticipation and a touch of nervous excitement.